The national government considers declaring a total lockdown due to violations of the enhanced community quarantine, as President Rodrigo Duterte calls on Filipinos to be homeliners amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The PNP Highway Patrol Group warns of confiscating the driver's license of motorists who go on non-essential trips. COVID-19 vaccine, hopeful despite difficulty, says the International Vaccine Institute Director General. The Philippine National Police provides right for healthcare and essential workers while ensuring protection from discrimination. California becomes the first state in the USA to announce a program to aid undocumented immigrants amid the coronavirus pandemic. New breathing aid to combat coronavirus developed in London. Copy of its design can be accessed for free.
President Rodrigo Duterte calls on Filipinos to be homeliners in this time of crisis. A total lockdown might be declared, according to Malacanang, if ECQ violations continue. Rosalie Cos explains why.
Malacanang does not deny the Duterte administration is considering the declaration of total lockdown due to violations of the enhanced community quarantine. According to Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque, although ECQ is in place, coronavirus cases continue to spike.
Pero hindi po fake news na kinukonsidera ang total lockdown, lalong-lalo na kung magpapatuloy yung mga pasaway sa ating kalsada. So wag na po nating pahabain pa itong ECQ. Tumupad na po tayo sa ating obligasyon at kaunting panahon na lang po naman ang natitira dito sa ating ECQ.
The palace also blames the lack of discipline of some Filipinos who make the Philippines the leading country among the member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN with the highest number of COVID-19 positives, which are now at 5,660.
Nakakahiya po yan. Itigil nyo na yung pagiging pasaway. Manatili kayo sa inyong mga tahanan. Kung ikukumpira nyo ang ECQ sa ibang bansa, sa Singapore, lahat sumusunod. Sa Malaysia, ganyan din. Dito lang sa Pilipinas, nagkaroon ng traffic sa SLEX at sa Divisoria. Despite ECQ, mahiya naman po tayo.
He adds President Rodrigo Duterte is pleading to the Filipino people to be homeliners during this crisis. Meanwhile, according to IATF spokesperson Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, Filipinos should not be alarmed with the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the country.
Hindi naman ito contest among ASEAN nations, di ba? Hindi naman ito contest na pakuntian ng number. Hindi ganyan. And that's also something that was not discussed dun sa ASEAN Summit.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group warns to confiscate the driver's license of motorists who violate the enhanced community quarantine. Roan Nanot tells us why.
Confiscation of driver's license faces motorists who go on non-essential trips amid the ECQ period. The Philippine National Police Highway Patrol Group or PNP-HPG, in cooperation with the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, conducted a surprise crackdown on ECQ violators yesterday. 71 drivers of private vehicles were apprehended by the HPG. Their driver's license were confiscated. They were issued violation tickets and temporary operator's permit or TOP, valid for 3 days only. Most of those apprehended were found not exempt from the ECQ or not authorized persons outside residence. That means they go on intercity travels but against the ECQ protocol.
Yun nga, may hinatid lang, may pupuntahan, emergency, may yung mga ganong mga palusot ba na sinasabi nila. So, tapos yung iba naman, nagpapakita naman sila ng quarantine, pero quarantine pass nila pero sila naman itiga ibang city. So bakit pwede namang mamalengke sa kanilang syudad? Bakit dadayo pa sa iba?
In a Get It Straight with Daniel Razon interview today, MMDA EDSA Traffic Chief Edison Bong Nabriha appealed to the public to obey the government's stay-at-home order. This measure is placed in a bid to prevent another extension of the ECQ.
Good luck kung makuha mo pa agad yung lisensya mo within 3 days. And the TOP itself will only be valid for 3 days. So basically, after 3 days, wala ka ng lisensya.
Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Malacanang warns on possible charges against personalities inciting to sedition amid the COVID-19 crisis. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says President Rodrigo Duterte respects the freedom of expression. He explains, however, this is not absolute, especially now that the country is facing the coronavirus pandemic. The Bayanihan to Heal as One law also states that individuals or groups perpetrating or spreading false information geared to promote chaos, anarchy, and confusion will be penalized. Recently, a personality has trended on social media cursing the president because of the implementation of the enhanced community quarantine in Luzon. Courtesy
Nakasaad po sa International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, no, na a state can derogate, among others, dito po sa freedom of expression kapag meron pong national emergency. Alam po natin na ang COVID ay hindi lang national emergency, it is an international emergency. So, Mystica, may batas po na po pwedeng gamitin para parusahan ka.
Filipinos in Luzon may expect a new normal by the end of the extended enhanced community quarantine on April 30, 2020. Rosalie Cos explains why.
The government asked the Filipino people to be more patient and cooperative with authorities on the enhanced community quarantine placed to combat the transmission of COVID-19. According to Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, the days ahead will be important as the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases will be looking into the basis of its recommendations to President Rodrigo Duterte after April 30.
Pag-uusapan po namin next week at maging masinsinan at malalim na pag-uusapan ang mga bagong do's and don'ts after April 30.
The implementation of ECQ will be much stricter, especially on violators, several days towards the end of the month when the extended enhanced community quarantine is set to be lifted.
After April 30, we will try to set up new guidelines for the new normal. No? All things being considered, kung maganda ang makita natin within the next how many days? 14 days. So, kailangan po talaga natin ng kooperasyon ng bawat isa to make the decision easier.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Bureau of Corrections Chief Gaines says reports that there are more than 70 inmates in the National Penitentiary suspected of coronavirus infection. Sherwin Kulubong details why.
The new Bilibid prison remains COVID-19 free. This was guaranteed by Bureau of Corrections Director General Gerald Bantag in the UNTV program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon today. Director Gerald Bantag allayed fears of the relatives of persons deprived of liberty in the National Penitentiary, saying there is no infection of the novel coronavirus recorded in the NBP. The Bucor chief also clarified reports that have reached President Rodrigo Duterte that there are allegedly 74 inmates and 80 Bucor personnel considered as persons under monitoring or PUM under the Health Department's old COVID-19 classification. When the DOH released its new classification, there is no longer any PUM within Bucor. A tent has been installed within the NBP maximum security compound where PDLs manifesting symptoms of coronavirus infection like cough, cold, and fever are checked and undergo observation.
Kasi may pagkakataon na para taong sinisipon, yan po ay minomonitor kaagad natin. Ngayon kapag nakitaan po natin ng mga flu-like symptoms, kina-quarantine kaagad po natin hanggang sa ma-reach po nila yung 14 days na clearing period nila. At pag wala po, binabalik na natin sa dati. Kaya wala po tayong COVID dito.
Director General Bantag added that disinfection is regularly conducted in Bucor. There are more than 27,000 persons deprived of liberty and confinement in the New Bilibid prison to date. Sherwin Kulubong, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The head of the World Health Organization said that he regrets President Donald Trump's decision to pull funding for the organization. Asher Kadapan Jr. will tell us why.
World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said in a news conference that the United States of America has been a long-standing and generous friend of the agency, adding that hope it will continue to be so. He said they are still assessing the impact of U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to halt the nation's funding to the agency. DG Ghebreyesus added that the WHO would try to fill any gaps with partners to ensure its work continues uninterrupted.
We're committed to serving the world's people and to accountability for the resources with which we're entrusted. In due course, WHO's performance in tackling this pandemic will be reviewed by WHO's member states and the independent bodies that are in place to ensure transparency and accountability.
Ghebreyesus stresses now is a time for the world to be united in its common struggle against the outbreak, which he described as a dangerous enemy. Trump's move to halt funding to the WHO over its handling of the pandemic prompted condemnation on Wednesday from world leaders as recorded global infections passed the 2 million mark. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Director General of the International Vaccine Institute says there is hope the COVID-19 vaccine will be developed despite the difficulty. He underscores that to give everybody access to effective vaccines, we must work together as a world. Nina Armilio details why.
International Vaccine Institute Director General Jerome Kim reveals that the vaccine for the novel coronavirus disease is hopeful, though vaccines are hard to develop. He explains that on the vaccines against HIV, tuberculosis, or malaria, the immune system's response to the vaccine is not sufficient to clear the disease. But it's different for the novel coronavirus infection.
With COVID-19, we've seen a lot of people who've recovered, and we believe that those people are going to be immune to future infections, and that would raise some hope that we should be able to develop a vaccine.
Kim estimates that a COVID-19 vaccine will be available in a year or so.
Typically, usually, it takes between 5 and 10 years to develop a vaccine, but these are not usual circumstances. So scientists around the world are hoping that we are able to prove that a vaccine works in 12 to 18 months.
Kim reiterates that to vaccinate a good part of the world's population, it requires international cooperation.
And we're hoping that as we move forward, the companies and the organizations like CEPI and governments, like the government of China, the government of the United States, are going to realize that we together as a world have a lot at stake in making sure that everyone has access to effective vaccines.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And now let's take a look at the updated tally of coronavirus cases around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic as of today has reached 185 countries and territories with a total of 2,069,819 confirmed cases. The United States remains as the worst hit country. More than 500,000 patients have recovered around the world. But 137,193 have lost their lives to the novel coronavirus. Meanwhile, the Philippines remains the fifth most affected country in the Western Pacific region. The Health Department today reported that the total confirmed cases in the country stand at 5,660, this after recording 207 new cases. 82 more patients have recovered from the disease, bringing the total recoveries to 435. The death toll is now at 362. The Philippine National Police assures that police personnel will readily assist healthcare and essential workers amid this time of crisis. Leia Ilagan has the details why.
The Philippine National Police ensures the safety of healthcare workers after the President ordered the police to protect medical frontliners. This after reports of discrimination against them. PNP spokesperson, Police Brigadier General Bernard Banac says they are providing 6 trucks to give free rides for health and essential workers and transport them across Metro Manila.
Ang mga trucks ng PNP upang i-atid at susuin ng mga health workers natin at iba pang mga manggagawa na kailangan ng mga essential.
The PNP spokesperson assures the police will assist health workers being discriminated in their barangays.
Sasamahan po natin PNP ang sinumang health worker natin na hihingi ng tulong para po makauwi sa kanilang bahay at makatulog at makapahinga.
Joint Task Force Coronavirus Shield Commander, Police Lieutenant General Guillermo Eliazar says the PNP Legal Service is working on the cases that can be filed against individuals who discriminate, bully, and harass medical frontliners. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Manila City government approves 2 new ordinances in time for the crisis the country is facing. Meanwhile, Manila City Mayor expressed thanks to Brother Eli Soriano and Kuya Daniel Razon. Mirasol Abugadil will tell us why.
Manila City Mayor Francisco Isko Moreno Dumagoso has signed an ordinance that penalizes any funeral home owner who will reject service for the body of a COVID-19 fatality. The ordinance also includes penalty on overpricing of caskets, cremation, and burial.
Ipinagbabawal po ngayon sa lungsod ng Maynila ang pananamantala sa ating mga kababayang nagdadalamhati tapos nasa krisis pa ngayon.
Suspension of business permit awaits first-time violation and cancellation of business permit for second-time violators. The mayor also signed another ordinance that mandates Manileños to wear a face mask when going to any public place. Fines will be faced by any violator of this ordinance: 1,000 pesos for the first violation, 2,000 pesos for the second time, and 5,000 pesos or 1 month imprisonment for the third time of getting apprehended for not wearing a face mask. The city government has distributed 600,000 pieces of washable face masks and 100,000 surgical face masks across the city.
Marami pong uri ng mask. Pwede po yung ginawa ninyo, pwede naman yung binigay ng syudad na washable o surgical mask. Basta po lalabas tayo para maiwasan at mapaliit natin ang probability na magkandahawa-hawa tayo.
Meanwhile, Mayor Dumagoso thanked Brother Eli Soriano and Kuya Daniel Razon for their donation for the Manileños.
Sa ating Kuya Daniel Razon at kay Brother Eli Soriano ng dating daan, maraming salamat po sa inyo at sa inyong mga kasamahan. Maraming salamat sa ipinagkaloob ninyong 1 milyong piso sa lungsod ng Maynila.
Mirasol Abugadil, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The country's agriculture department is looking for unused lands which are properties of indigenous peoples in the country. This is aside from the urban farming project. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The Department of Agriculture's Plant program is looking into massive planting across the country. This is very timely, especially now that the country is facing the COVID-19 pandemic. Food sources are a must. Data gathered by the DA from the National Commission on Indigenous People showed that indigenous people in the country occupy around 7.7 million hectares in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. This is about 26% of the 30 million hectare country land area. Short-term plants like vegetables can be planted in these lands, even raising poultry and hogs. The DA continues to advocate urban farming and provides free seeds and seedlings for those who want to raise plants even in their residences. The DA also assures the present rice supply in the country will last for 84 days by the end of June. Ray Pilayo, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Interior Department reminds local governments that the government aid under the Social Amelioration Program must not be divided among several households. Ray Pelayo clarifies why.
Dave, a resident of barangay in Antipolo City, shared his situation in UNTV's Serbisyong Bayanihan, which he wanted to resolve. He is one of the qualified Social Amelioration Program or SAF beneficiaries. He said that a staffer from his barangay had told him the 6,500 peso aid under SAP will be divided into 3 families, including his household.
Kami po dito sa Antipolo, kuya, yung hahatian daw po sa isang form na yan, sa amelioration po, ay 6.5 po. Bali po ang sa amin ay 2.1 po sa amin na 2 member. Tapos yung kukuha po ng form na magpifill up ng form ay 2-3 po.
Kuya Daniel Razon brought the case to the Department of the Interior and Local Government. The DILG clarified that dividing SAP aid is prohibited under the Social Welfare Department's guidelines for the implementation of the program.
Kung ang barangay kapitan naman po ang naging aksyon ay hatiin ito sa 3 pamilya dahil nahihirapan siya, dahil sa kanyang tingin ay kulang yung ibinabang forms at kulang yung pondo at mas nangangailangan. Hindi po tama yung ganyan ginawa na hahatiin niya kung yun nga ang plano niya.
DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya even added it is forbidden to duplicate SAP forms. USEC Malaya advises local government officials to wait for the second batch of the DSWD list if more residents are in need in their localities.
Habang nag-aantay po sa tugon ng DSWD doon sa pangalawang listahan, ay pwede na po nilang i-prioritize itong mga pamilyang ito doon sa food packs na manggagaling naman sa kanila. Kasi nga po, Kuya Daniel, nagbigay po uli ang Pangulo ng 1 buwang IRA, extra IRA sa lahat ng LGU sa buong bansa.
The DILG promised to assist Dave with his problem. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Labor and Employment will no longer accept applications from employers of formal sector workers for its cash aid program. Asher Kadapan Jr. will tell us why.
Under the Department of Labor and Employment's COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program or CAMP, formal sector workers affected by the pandemic are entitled to receive 5,000 pesos as cash aid. But the Labor Department have announced they have stopped accepting applications for the wage subsidy program. According to Labor Assistant Secretary Dominic Rubia Tutay, this is because the Department of Finance has begun its own program for workers of small businesses.
Simula po tayong magsara ng sistema natin kahapon po ng 5:00 ng hapon at lahat po ng mga natanggap po namin na applications ay i-evaluate pa rin po namin yon. Doon po sa mga hindi aabutin ng nakalaang pondo para sa COVID Adjustment Measures Program, ang information po ay isi-share po namin sa Department of Finance.
So far, DOLE has approved about 500,000 CAMP applications. Others are awaiting approval. Tutay added that DOLE has already requested for additional budget for CAMP and if approved, will cover 500,000 more workers.
Kapag pinaprocess at ini-evaluate na, hanggang ano na po yan, preparation na po yan ng payment ng kanilang 5,000 pesos financial assistance.
According to Assistant Secretary Tutay, DOLE has so far given cash assistance to 236,405 formal sector workers under CAMP out of the 321,975 target beneficiaries. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
At least 14 senators have signed a resolution calling for the immediate resignation of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III over his failed leadership. Arlene Delgado reports why.
More than half of the senators want Health Secretary Francisco Duque III to leave his post with what they call as failed leadership during the COVID-19 crisis. In Senate Resolution number 362 filed today, the senators cited series of acts of the health chief which they believe showed his negligence, lack of foresight, and inefficiency in performing his mandate, which they deemed resulted in poor planning, delayed response, lack of transparency, and misguided policies in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. One of them was his stance not to impose travel ban from China during the question hour at the House of Representatives last January. Another was when he revealed in a Senate hearing in February that only 17% was done in the contact tracing of the 2 Chinese nationals, the first cases of COVID-19 in the country, and blamed the airline companies for slow progress. The senators also took note of the quote-unquote dismal failure of the agency to provide personal protective equipment or PPEs for healthcare workers. They also cited the incident at the National Center for Mental Health, which resulted in 34 staff members testing positive for COVID-19, along with 297 personnel to become persons under investigation and 181 under persons under monitoring. The resolution adds Duque exposed many Filipinos to risk when he failed to alert the medical community and the public about the patients admitted in health facilities who were already exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms, while insisting that the country still had 0 cases of local transmission. The health chief, according to senators, also showed lack of foresight by not immediately stockpiling PCR-based testing kits to make them available for mass testing. The resolution also cited the claim of the secretary in April that the country had relatively low cases of infection and compared to richer countries because of the better containment of the disease, where in fact the senators say the country has been lagging behind other nations in terms of testing capacity. It also noted that the DOH failed to act fast in facilitating accreditation of testing centers, which slows the response of local government units, such as the delayed inspection of the Marikina Testing Center. Lastly, Duque, according to the senators, refused and failed to immediately invoke Section 12 of the Medical Act that would allow graduates of medical schools to render medical services under special authorization amid the deaths among health professionals. Senator Panfilo Lacson says in a statement they agreed not to recommend any replacement should Duque resigns, as they leave it to the president to decide for a competent leader to take the helm of the health department amid the crisis. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants Health Secretary Francisco Duque III to stay in his post despite of the sentiments of several senators against him. Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea, in a statement, says the president also expects the health chief to work even harder to set aside doubts on his capacity and sincerity to serve the public during this COVID-19 crisis. Malacanang has earlier said the palace has nothing to do with the calls for Duque to step down from his post.
Wala pa po kaming posisyon, wala po kaming kinalaman kung talagang merong ganyang inisyatibo na pag-resignin ang ating kalihim ng Secretary of Health. And gaya ng paulit-ulit ko nang nasasabi sa mga nakalipas na panahon, every cabinet member serves at the pleasure of the President, and habang hindi sila tinatanggal, the President continues to have full trust and confidence in them.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 positives in the Philippines outnumbers total death cases. Meanwhile, the health chief is not stepping down despite calls for him to do so. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
82 additional patients recovered from the coronavirus disease, bringing the total number to 435 according to the Health Department. This is higher than total deaths, 362 recorded in the country as of today. To help COVID-19 patients recover, President Duterte is pushing for the use of antibody treatment. According to the President, when antibody treatment becomes available in local pharmacies, only then will he lift the lockdown measures.
Kung meron na yan, tapos makita ko na ginagamit ng tao, ililift ko. Total, kung magkasakit kayo, may antibodies naman tayo mabili. I will lift the quarantine.
But according to the DOH, experts are still thoroughly studying the efficacy of antibody treatment. According to Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, there are two kinds of antibody treatment. One is humanized monoclonal antibodies, which uses non-human species whose protein sequences will be modified to match the antibody variants produced naturally in humans.
Halimbawa po ay ang mga gamot na tocilizumab at sarilumab na ginagamit para sa rheumatoid arthritis or rheuma.
The other is convalescent plasma therapy, already being used in UP Philippine General Hospital in Manila City. This process allows antibodies present in a COVID-19 survivor to be transferred to another patient to hasten recovery. Meanwhile, the health chief has made a decision to continue his job as the health chief, despite some senators' call for him to step down. Secretary Duque stands firm the fight the Philippines is in right now is not against one man or of one agency but for all Filipinos. He emphasizes the DOH will continue to be in the trenches with the healthcare workers and frontliners, despite all the challenges and limited resources. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, Malacanang asked the Department of the Interior and local government to mediate between the Department of Health and the Marikina City government on the coronavirus disease 2019 testing center of the city. The palace reiterates the importance of following DOH's guidelines since the virus is highly contagious. President Rodrigo Duterte appreciates the initiatives of local government units to address the COVID-19 crisis in their areas of responsibility, Malacanang adds.
Ang aming nakitang solusyon dyan, hihingin po namin ng DILG na mag-mediate sa panig ng DOH at ng Marikina City. No? Huwag naman po nating i-discourage ang initiatives ng LGUs, pero at the same time, mga LGUs, huwag naman po natin baliwalain ang safety standards ng ating DOH.
Marikina City Mayor Marcelino Teodoro has earlier mentioned that even without the DOH approval, he would want the city's testing center to be operational. The COVID-19 testing center in Marikina City opens today, not for testing, but for personnel training. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
While the DOH has yet to accredit the Marikina City COVID-19 testing center, the facility opened today, but only for biosafety level 2 training as well as proficiency training of the medical personnel who will facilitate the testing center. They are being trained by UP Genome Center personnel. The training will conclude on Saturday. According to Marikina Mayor Marcelino Teodoro, the process of accreditation is being expedited with the help of the Department of the Interior and Local Government, as well as the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF-EID.
Ang accreditation daw, na-expect nila, the earliest is by Tuesday morning. After we get or secure the accreditation, we could immediately conduct swabbing.
Mayor Teodoro and the testing center personnel have already discussed today the prioritization process of the actual swabbing. Personnel from DOH and Research Institute for Tropical Medicine, or RITM, continue to conduct inspection today. The testing center is scheduled for decontamination starting tomorrow. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Damaraos live from Bangkok, Thailand. Good evening, Kath.
Good evening, William. While the spread of the virus has appeared to be reaching its peak in the United Kingdom, British Health Minister warns it is too early to lift restrictions. Jovic Burmas details the story why.
Britain is probably reaching the peak of its coronavirus epidemic, but it is too soon to be confident of that. England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty said on Wednesday. However, he said statistical lags meant the number of deaths may go up in the coming days.
I think it's very important we don't get to the point where we say, look at the numbers of deaths, that means we've passed the peak. But we do all think that this is flattened out. Sadly, we do think that high numbers of deaths will continue for certainly a short while on from where we are at the moment.
Deputy Chief Scientific Advisor to the government, Angela McLean, said Britain's restrictions on social interactions to contain the coronavirus outbreak are working and have flattened the curve of new COVID-19 cases. While the spread of the virus has appeared to be reaching its peak in the UK, British Health Minister Matt Hancock warned it was too early to lift restrictions and said a formal decision on a possible lockdown official decision would be made at a COBRA meeting Thursday local time.
The message to the public watching is that everybody can play their part by staying at home, which protects the NHS and saves lives.
The United Kingdom's hospital death toll from COVID-19 rose by 761 to 12,868 as of April 14, the fifth highest globally after the United States, Italy, Spain, and France. Jovic Burmas, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
In a hospital in the Yemeni city of Taiz, medics scarred by 5 years of war are marshalling scant resources to face a new enemy. Miguel Rey de Leon details why.
Yemen has confirmed only one coronavirus case until today, but 8 groups feared that could be a harbinger of a catastrophic outbreak among an acute malnourished population.
But unfortunately, I only prepared the place. A place to receive corona patients and for them to stay in, as well as the bathrooms. But unfortunately, we don't even have one bed. It doesn't have any beds or ventilators. I've done a general study for the exact needs of this center.
The WHO is leveraging reporting networks previously used to track cholera and polio outbreaks to investigate rumors of coronavirus cases. The fighting and economic collapse have displaced nearly 4 million people, many of whom live in cramped camps with no running water. Around 80% of Yemen's population, or 24 million people, require humanitarian aid.
But it's not easy, as you say. It's a very large country. It's a very, very fractured health system, and one in which we will all struggle to provide adequate levels of supportive care to people should the disease take off in this community.
The southern port is the temporary seat of the government backed by a Saudi-led coalition. The medical charity said inadequate testing was probably why Yemen was one of the last countries to register the virus. Recently arrived kits mean a few thousand can now get checked at centers in Sana'a, Aden, and the coastal city of Mukalla. Ventilators are in short supply nationally at a few hundred. Miguel Rey de Leon, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Hundreds of Peruvians who found themselves trapped in Lima during the quarantine are trying to reach their native Andean villages on foot, defying government restrictions amid the coronavirus pandemic. Chris Perez reports why.
Entire Peruvian families, most wearing face masks, arrived on Tuesday at a town outside of Lima en route to the Andean region of Huancavelica. According to the police, the group had been walking for 3 days.
Where there is a mass gathering of people, the danger is greater. So we are speaking through megaphones, indicating that they put distance between each person, but oftentimes they do not understand.
Many travelers said they felt they had no choice. Huancavelica resident Basilio Santa Cruz said his family had not received expected government support while in Lima.
For us, the voucher has not arrived and we do not know where that voucher has gone. The support of the state, for that reason, all of us organized here are returning to our towns, even if on foot.
The army have convinced the workers to undergo a coronavirus test before continuing their journey. Peru has been under a state of emergency with closed borders and citizens under lockdown since mid-March. The government has repatriated Peruvians from abroad who were traveling in Peru, and it has also delivered money and supplies to poor urban families. But some authorities have opposed the workers returning to their places of origin for fear they would bring the coronavirus to Andean regions where the outbreak has been less intense than in the capital. Police patrolling the group in Matucana said they would attempt to keep them static until a protocol could be put in place. Peru is currently reporting 10,303 cases with 230 deaths. Chris Perez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, in America, California becomes the first state in the USA to announce a program for direct disaster assistance to undocumented immigrants. The aim is to assist them during the coronavirus pandemic. Let's listen to California Governor Gavin Newsom.
So a total of $125 million to provide individual assistance of $500 and household assistance up to $1,000 for those individuals that are quite literally putting themselves on the line and helping support this economy and those most in need at this moment.
And in Thailand, some hundreds of public and private hospitals may receive mass sterilizing machines for free soon. Here's the story why.
A team of Thai researchers plus a non-profit initiative company equals at machines that sterilizes protective face masks for medical staff. And it all happens in this factory. The group says that using UVC or ultraviolet C light technology, the machines kill the novel coronavirus's protein and bacteria. The SOS COVID-19 Fight Project delivered on Wednesday its first batch of mass sterilizers to fight the coronavirus in Thailand. The founder of the initiative, Nimit Prasit Dumrong, says the purpose of the project was to help medical staff with their safety due to the shortage of N95 and surgical masks.
The problem is we couldn't find enough masks these days, and masks that we receive from donation don't match medical grade. So please, doctors, don't throw away masks. There is already a procedure for reusing.
SOS COVID-19 Fight Project is planning to distribute the machines to both public and private hospitals for free. More than 300 hospitals have already signified their interest. Thai Public Health Minister received 35 sterilizers yesterday. Since the outbreak escalated in January, Thailand has reported a total of 2,643 cases and 43 fatalities, while nearly 1,500 patients have recovered. Kat Tumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue, Thailand. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the stories abroad. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Kath Maraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. A new machine that intends to assist coronavirus patients in breathing has been developed and is being trialed at London hospitals. The development of the new device took fewer than 100 hours from initial meeting to production of the first one. Nina Armilio has this report.
A new version of a breathing aid that can help coronavirus patients has been developed in London. Continuous positive airway pressure, or CPAP devices, deliver air and oxygen under pressure to patients' lungs to help them breathe without the need to go on a ventilator, a more invasive process. The new CPAP has been approved by the relevant regulator for use in the National Health Service, or NHS. University College London engineers and doctors and Mercedes One aim to fast-track life-saving breathing aid from idea to prototype to approval to full-scale production. And that's done in just 10 days, according to Rebecca Shipley, Professor of Healthcare Engineering and Vice Dean of Health. The UCL Faculty Engineering Sciences have released all designs and manufacturing processes for the UCL Ventura CPAP at no cost to support the global response to COVID-19. In fact, the design has been shared with 1,326 teams in 25 countries across the globe. In a tweet, the UCL Institute of Healthcare Engineering says the UK government has ordered up to 10,000 breathing aids. Parties interested about the design may visit mercedes-amgf1.com. Asked about the risk to healthcare workers of using CPAPs as contaminated droplets can escape from the device, Professor Shipley said the risks were very low if those workers wore appropriate personal protective equipment. Nina Armilio, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Our kasambahay, we are at a time when the country is under a state of health emergency. The cooperation of all Filipinos is imperative to avoid the deadly virus. We are calling on everyone to be calm.
And most importantly, let us join together in prayer for our country and for the whole world to survive this crisis. You may join us in our daily UNTV community prayer at these hours as flashed on your screens. And those are the reasons behind the news. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And I am Angelo Castro III, because we need to know. We will always ask why. Good evening.